Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to talk about how to use your keyboard input as a clip control matrix, which will allow you to launch clips from your keyboard without having to manually map them to each key. All right, so let's just go ahead and get started. As you can see, I've laid out the window in such a way that I have an empty Max for Live device right in the middle. I have the Max window to the right, which will give us some logging information. And to the left, I just have my live set that has just a few empty clips in it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get started with what's called the key object. So I'm going to press N and then just type in key. And what the key object does is it will take your computer keyboard as an input and it will output numbers. And so if you mouse over the various things here, let's see, we have the different outlets. So we have the ASCII code, the platform specific code, the modifier keys of key pressed, and the platform independent keyboard code of key pressed. Let's just go ahead and look at some of those. So let's just go ahead and have a print device. Oops, sorry about that. So you can see this is just good information. If you type the wrong word in an object, then it will turn gray. So it will be grayed out. It won't do anything whatsoever. So this is important stuff to know. So let's just go ahead and look at the print for example, the let's call this indie, meaning independent. Let's also print the modifier key, so that's kind of interesting to see as well. All right, and you might wonder why I'm using this particular output, and the reason is because I don't know if you're on a Mac or a PC or whatever, and if you're going to be making a patch that is going to work on all those platforms regardless, and you're going to want to make sure you use the platform independent output. All right, so let's go ahead, and when I watch this Max window, when I press the A key, for example, you have the number 97, S key is going to be 115, etc. and so forth. And even though I'm just kind of like working left to right on the same row, you'll notice, oh, sorry about this, see that I'm actually creating new devices in the Max window. And the reason is because I'm still in edit mode. So exit edit mode, we just go through here, and you'll see that we have a number corresponding to each key that we're pressing. And if I press Shift A, for example, then you can see the mod key is 512, because apparently that's the modifier code for shift. Press Control A, I get 97, which is A, and 4,096, and then Option A or Alt A, and all these different things. Okay, so this is good stuff to know. It's good stuff to keep track of. Right now we're just going to be using the platform independent, but I just wanted to notify you that you can use the mod key as well. So that's really good stuff to know, especially if you want to expand the possibilities of your whatever device you're controlling with the keyboard input. All right, so now that we've got that, let's just go ahead and try to do something with these numbers coming out. So what I'm going to do is I want to just see what the numbers are, and the reason I'm going to do this is because there's actually kind of no rhyme or reason to what numbers are assigned to what key. Probably someone knows the actual reason that these things are the way they are. I myself have no idea what they are, so it seems just kind of random to me. But the keys that are important to me are going to be the keys that are under my fingers when my hand is in resting position on the keyboard. So that for me is A through F on the left hand, and then let's see, J through colon or semicolon, I guess, on the right hand. So I'm just going to go through those, and I'm just going to print them all out so that I have them as a reference here. So let's just go ahead and do that. A, S, D, F, J, K, L, semicolon. Okay, so as you can see, you look at these and it's like, well, I can't really identify, maybe some sort of math genius in there can identify some sort of pattern among these. Doesn't seem to be one for me. Maybe the pattern goes in columns. I have no idea. Okay, so this is information that you need to know. So now that we have this coming out, we can just go ahead and move this print object to the side. What we're going to want to do at this point is I'm going to want to convert these numbers into just the series 0 through 3. And the reason I'm doing that, you might wonder, well, why are you doing that? The reason is that I'm going to take these, I want these numbers to actually control which clip and scene is being triggered. And since these numbers, 97 through 115, are completely out of range of any kind of scene that I have going on here, I want to capture those numbers and turn them into the desired number, those being just the numbers 0 through 4 on the left hand and 0 through 4 on the right hand. So how are we going to do this? Well, an easy way to do this is using what we call the select object. What the select object will do is it will only allow through elements that you define as arguments. So as you can see over here, I have these, I'm just going to go ahead and define these 8 values as arguments. So let's just call this 97. Don't press enter unless you're done. 115, I'm just going to do it right in the order that I found it, just because that will make my life a lot easier. 102, 106, 107, 108. See, those ones are in sequence, and then we get 59, which is just a totally random one here. So I'm going to go ahead and X out here. And what you'll notice is that actually this has 9 outlets. Okay, which is kind of interesting. So it has 9 outlets, and you might wonder, why is there a 9 outlet? Well, the reason is that there has to be somewhere for all this other junk to go. So at the very end, you have select input if input doesn't match. So that basically, if anything that is not one of these is just going to fall off the end, you might want to capture that, you might not. In this case, I kind of just want to ignore those for the purposes of our demonstration, so I won't be collecting anything right there. So what I'm going to do just to show you is I'm just going to actually introduce a bang object. So I'm going to press B, notice this little button shows up, it's a little like light. And I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate that by command dragging. I want there to be 8 of them, so I'm just going to do this, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and select all, press command Y just to straighten them up. If I wanted to, I could probably align them better. It's not really that important right now. And basically what I want to do is I just want to show you what happens when you press one of these keys. You'll notice that a bang signal, just meaning an on signal. So a bang is just a signal with no information that just activates whatever is on the receiving end of it. A bang signal will be identified with just a little light going on. So when I press A, you'll see that this light goes on, S, F, or sorry, D, F, and then J, sorry. Same thing where I didn't exit MIDI mode, sorry, or edit mode, and then J, K, L, semicolon. Okay, so now all of these are receiving these key presses, and you'll notice that if I press anything else, so right now I'm pressing Q, a number is coming up in the max window, but nothing is banging down here. And the reason is because it's outside of the select object. And if I were to, you know, put a bang at this last output, then I would be getting some sort of output from there. But right now we don't care. All right. So, and now I'm going to show you something which is a little bit of a kludge. And this is not the most elegant way to do this. And if I were to be doing a 2-hour long tutorial instead of a 15-minute long tutorial, I'd show you how to do that. But for right now, this will work. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have each one of these outputs bang a message that is the number that I want to convert it to. So instead of doing some sort of mathematics to convert 97 to 0 and 115 to 1 and 100 to 2 and 102 to 3, I'm just going to make it a message box. So I'm going to enter edit mode, press M, and just press 0. All right. I'm just going to make 4 of these like so. I'm going to make these just be 0 through 3. And you might be wondering, if you weren't, or if you don't remember the last tutorial, why on earth I have it being 0 through 3 and not 1 through 4. And the reason is that, remember that max for live is 0 index, which means that the first clip is actually the 0th clip. All right, and so I'm just going to duplicate that because I want each of these to, I want to get 0 through 3 on my left hand and 0 through 3 on my right hand. That's all I want to do right now. So I'm just going to go ahead, and these bangs will just go all the way through. So I can just collect this the output from this bang and just route it directly to the message. And the reason that that's useful is because you can just see if the signal is actually going through, which is always a good thing to know. So it's one of those things where it's often useful just to put those bang objects in the middle of one of your paths. That way you can tell that something's going through there. So it's a really good thing to do in general. Okay, so now if I were to exit edit mode and do this, you can't see anything happening, but it is triggering those these messages. Good deal. And you'll notice just one little thing. I did connect this to the left out or input rather. And the reason I do that is because the right, if I connect it to the right input of this message box, it'll set the message without output. That's the most important thing. So you don't want that, right? You just want it to trigger the message. So once again, you mouse over that left input and you say trigger the message. Okay, so that's good. So it's not going to do anything. Okay, so we're already halfway there, guys. We're not that too far away. Now what we need to do is we're going to make a statement that will take one of each of these values as an input. Okay? So how are we going to do this? We need to use variables. So let's go ahead and make another message box, and we're just going to give a command to our live path and live objects, which you will remember from the last tutorial. Okay? We're just going to go ahead and do it this way. I'm just going to show you. Go to live set. Let's see, scenes, and then we're going to use a variable right here. So actually I want the scene to be selected by the left hand, so let's do scenes, and here this is the most important part, $1 scenes, $1, clip slots, splots is not a thing, right? Clip slots, $2. This is the most important element. Okay, so, and then I'm going to go ahead and put a message box so that we can tell that it's working, right? Let's just do a print box. Let's be a little bit on the classy side here because we already have our logging out. So let's just say print path. There we go. Okay. Like so. And you'll notice what we've done here. These dollar signs and the numbers that go after them refer to the number of an incoming, the index number is actually the technical name for it, the index number of an incoming list, okay? Which means that this is expecting at least a list of 2 numbers to be coming into this message. So you've got to give it at least 2 numbers or else something is going to go horribly wrong. Okay, so that's the basic of using variables, is that it's going to look for these elements, the first and second elements in a list coming in. Very good to know. Now, you might be wondering, okay, well, that's good and fine, but how are we going to make that list? Because if you look at this, all of these are going to be coming out separately. These are going to be single numbers. They're not going to be lists. So the way we make a list in Max for Live, and Max in general, is we use what's called a pack object, okay? And there's a reason I'm using a pack object and not what we call a POC object. Okay? Life gets pretty complicated here. And the reason that I do that is because a POC object will output every time a number comes in. POC is P-A-K, by the way. And pack object will output only when 2 elements are, when both inputs have received a signal. And that's really important when you're doing something like this, because you want to make sure that we have a scene number and a clip number, okay? So let's just go ahead and do one of these. Really not the most elegant, but we can see that we're going to get everything that's going to be the first number of the list. Element of the list is going to the left input of the pack, and everything that's going to be the second element of the list is going to the right. Oh, unless we're not careful, it's going to the right element of the list, right? And so this is going to really just literally pack them together, right? It's just not rocket science here. So it's just going to take those incoming single digits, it's going to pack them into a list, and then we'll pipe that into this message. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that like so. And now I'm going to exit edit mode, and we'll just go ahead and try this without even the clip or the keyboard input. We'll just press these message boxes as buttons. Let's go ahead and press 0. Oh, I made a mistake. And the mistake I've made, and I was going to edit this out, but I think it's important that you see this, is I actually put this in the wrong input. So the message box, remember that the message box, when you're using variables, you have to pipe that list to the leftmost input of the message box and not the rightmost, because that will reset the entire message, and that is just not what you want, right? So clip slots like so. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and look at that. Go ahead and do that one. All right, and we can see that we're going to press this one. So we can see that once it has received inputs on both of these inputs, or it received a signal from both these inputs, it's going to output the list into this this message box. And you can see, if you look at the max window, that these number signs, variables, have been replaced with the incoming numbers. Pretty cool, right? And so here's one thing that you need to really get through your head, which is like super not intuitive. So that's why I'm really adamant about this, is that all the elements in max go from right to left. So if you see, it's expecting something on the right. So if I just press the right input, nothing happens. It waits until the left input has been reached. Okay, so if they 3 and then 0, and then I get this way. So 0 and then 0, which would be this topmost clip, and then I get some output. And that's really a sort of a difficult thing to get used to at first, just because you're going to want this to it's just, a lot of us are used to reading English, which goes from left to right, so we're not really used to that kind of thing. But this is a good thing to get used to, because that is something, the thing that I think will cause you a lot of really small problems in Max for Live, the kind of thing that will cause bugs that really will get on your nerves if you are not careful. So be careful about that. Okay. So now we just need to go ahead and pipe this path command to our good old live.path object, and after that our live.object object, right? So hopefully you guys remember that from the last tutorial. And down here, this is another thing to keep in mind. Live path follows object, live path ID. You see this middle one, if you mouse over, you will see that it follows path. And that's really important here, because you remember when you're making a clip launcher, you want it to launch the clip slot, and that's why in this track, or in this path command, I have clip slots and not clip, because I want it to actually launch whatever is in the slot, regardless of if I take a clip out and put another one in, or if it's empty, it doesn't really matter, right? So I'm going to actually want to use this middle outlet, connect it to here, and then we have our good old, we have to give that object some command, remember? And so we're going to use call fire, which is just going to fire the clip. Okay, now the one thing that we're going to have to realize, though, is right now, like, let's say I do my little thing. Okay, I go bam, bam. Okay, well, I have a path, but nothing has happened. And the reason for that is that nothing has told this, has triggered this message. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to find some way to click on this as soon as an output is reached from this pack object. And that seems to be pretty complicated, but really it's simple. We have an object that is called, literally called a trigger, that is going to just be a T, and then it's going to have a few letters that are associated with it. It's good just to memorize these. A bang is going to be, B is going to be for bang, L is going to be for list. And what that means is that as soon as a single message is reached, in this case a list, so we're literally going to do this, just sort of put this over here, it's going to receive a list, and then this trigger is going to output a bang to our message here, and it's going to output that list to this message box. And that is going to, kill those two birds with one stone, in that it's going to give us a path and the command to fire the clip. So let's go ahead and exit MIDI mode and try to do this. So we're going to go ahead and press 3. And let's go ahead and try this again. So press 1 and then press 0. And you can see that if you weren't watching, it triggered a stop in the second track here. But let's focus on a clip that actually exists. So how about 0, 0 in this case? So 0, 0. Oh, and now the clip is playing. And let's say that I want to stop that one. I'll go for 0 and then 1, and that's going to play this clip slot down here, which will in turn stop it. Okay, so that's all good and fine in that it works with the pressing it here, but will it work with the keyboard input? That's the thing. So let's go ahead, and you can't see this, but I just pressed the A key and the J key, and that did it, right? And so now I'm going to do that again. It's going to trigger that clip again, and if I press the S key and the J key, it'll trigger the second clip, as in the second scene in the first track. Remember, J is corresponding to the first track, and A through F is corresponding to those first 4 scenes. And then like so, just go down here, and I can actually now trigger, in this case, 16 clips just with a combination of key commands. I don't have to actually use the mouse or a launch pad, something like that. I could just do it with my keyboard. And granted, this is the kind of thing where I like to do it this way because I use Vim a lot, which is a text editor for computer programming that has a lot of sort of stress on using key commands that are really easy to use quickly. So if you want to do this with different keys, you certainly can. And we'll talk about a little bit later. There's a couple of different ways that you can improve this and make it so that you can have it scale really easily with your set, so it's not set to a certain number, but this gives you a general idea of how to make a clip matrix using just your keyboard. Okay, so make sure to leave me a comment or send me a message on the Twitter if you have any questions whatsoever, and I will talk to you very soon.